Is gasoline over the country now a gallon?
Believe it or not, it went down in Paris. I've just got it filled up in Paris up here, and it was $4.35. $4.35 a gallon.
4.35.
$4.35.
How much was it?
It had been hovering somewhere around 4.55 to 4.75 here in Tennessee for the cheap stuff.
Yeah, where'd you fill up at?
I filled up over at Walmart.
Over at Walmart, Murphy stores.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a little less than 21 gallon, and it was $90.
21 gallons is how much?
$90. I paid $90 for a little more than 20 gallon.
Goodness.
20 gallon, do 20 gallon times 4, that's $80.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
I don't know how you afford to buy it.
Well, some people can't. That's just it. That's out here driving these gas guzzlers. They're not going to be able to afford that very, very long, especially if you ain't got a decent job that pays any good. You know what I'm saying? They're caught. They're captured. They're caught in between a hard place and a rock, and they can't do nothing about it because they can't go out here. Their credit's bad. They can't go out here and buy another vehicle.
You're going to have to throw these away anyhow. Biden wants you to get an electric car. You're going to have to throw your
Well, you can't just do it all at one time. You got to phase it in. You got to phase one part of it out. You got to phase another part in. You can't just bring this type of load upon people all at one time.
Well, he thinks you can, though.
Well, you know, I'm sorry to say that them big wigs, those big wigs that's got that kind of money, they live in a completely different world than what we live in.
They always have been.
Sure they have. They ain't had no need of nothing.
They don't buy the gas that the taxpayers buy their gas.
Exactly. They're swindlers. And that's what they do. They get that. That's what a politician is. A politic. What does a tick do? A tick grabs a hold of something and sucks all the blood out of it. Now you're wondering how come we're $23 trillion in debt? Well, it's because of all the freaking people that has been dibble-dabbling in the cookie jar, and now the cookie jar's about empty.
The politicians has done it.
Sure.
They politic this world.
But the preachers sat back and let them do it. They allowed for them to do it, and I blame the preachers and the church world probably more than I do the political world, is because the church world seen this coming upon to us, and nobody was willing to stand up to them. Just like the NRA, the gun lobbyist. Now you know good and well somebody should have stood up and stopped the NRA from promoting these military-style guns from being sold to the general public probably 25 years ago, whenever the first Sandy Hook shooting happened up there in that kindergarten school. I think that guy went in there and killed, 29 children or something like that?
Well, the NRA didn't have nothing to do with that.
The NRA is the ones that kicks up about anybody messing with the Second Amendment. The thing about the Second Amendment, whenever the Second Amendment was written...
don't kill people. People kill
Whenever
people.
the Second Amendment was written, it was written under the influence of people having a powder gun or a musket gun. They didn't have freaking machine guns back then whenever they legalized the Second Amendment.
People kill people. Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Evil, demonic. That's what I was saying a while ago, Uncle Bill. Do you really think that this world had turned out to have been as evil as it is right now if they would have listened to the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions?
The evil takes over.
I know that. And what has caused that? The failure of the adults. The failure of the church. If the church would have caught on to this, the church has allowed for the psychiatric community to take the place of prayer and fasting. Because at one time, whenever somebody was that cruel to society, you know what the church world done? They took them down there and they laid hands on them and they prayed them demonic spirits out of them people. Well, now you know what we do to them? We take them and we shove them off in a psychiatric ward somewhere, and they chemically seduce them, and they keep them seduced under these chemicals to the point that they walk around in a rubber room and they're slobbering all over their shoes and they don't know daylight from dark. And that was our Band-Aid That was our Band-Aid for years and years and years towards how that we was going to deal with these people.
Dennis, the problem is people has kids. They depend on the church, the government to raise their kids. They do not raise them and teach them right and wrong themselves. It comes at home, taught right and wrong. It comes out of the household. If you don't teach a kid when he's little bitty coming up, right and wrong, and you line the government to do that or the church to do that, it won't work.
It ain't gonna happen, is it?
You got to do it yourself.
You know, you got kids out here today that whenever they have a flat, they don't even know how to change
You
it.
have to teach kids about God and about living right and
about
wrong
morals
yourself.
Yeah, they claim that incest right now. You know what incest is, right? Incest, where a brother has sex with his sister, or a cousin has sex with
People has kids and they let them do the right because they get them out of the hair.
What
I
was going to say is the incest problem right now, Uncle Bill, is worse than it's ever been. Worse than it's ever been. You know what's happening out there right now? Those corn that those farmers planted is twisting up in a knot right now because of the heat and the lack of moisture. If we continue on this same cycle that we're on right now, it's a very strong possibility. I'm not making a prediction, but I'm just going to say if we continue on this same cycle that we're on right now, as far as the heat and the dryness, we could actually get so parched over here east of the Mississippi River to the point that we start seeing massive wildfires like they have out west, right here in the Smoky Mountains or in other local forests around here.
You can go to jail now for whipping your kid out in public.
No, you're wrong about that. No, you're wrong about that.
I ain't wrong about
yes,
it.
you are. You can whip your kid into private and go to jail over it. You don't have to be out in the public no more.
If a kid turns you in, you can.
That's right. You'll have a truant officer up at your freaking door. To where whenever we was growing up, they didn't have truant officers.
No.
Not around here. They may have had in New York or Chicago or some of these bigger cities they may have had. Out in California, maybe.
You can't correct the kid. You can't. Most kids has to have whipping. Most of them do.
Yes, they do. Because they're hard-headed and they'll try you. They'll try you. Won't they? Won't they? They'll try you. They'll just see how far they can get away with whatever that you told them that you can't get away with it. In other words, if you tell them, now, little Johnny, if you get up one more time, I'm going to spank you. Well, you know what? You'd have been better off not to have never told little Johnny that you was going to spank him if you wasn't going to spank him after little Johnny gets up. Because little Johnny's going to try you, and whenever he tries you, it's then up to you to prove to little Johnny, hey, I've told you the consequences are getting a spanking, and now you're fixing to get a spanking. That's the method. That's the method. And you discipline your children, not because you hate them, but because you love them. Now, granted, you got to look at the other perspective of it. There are maniacs out there, just like Bobby Jackson, I'm pretty sure you can verify this, that went way too far with his discipline tactics. He just lost his cool and just flew off the freaking handle, and the next thing you know, he was trying to kill you.
Well, it's a right and wrong way to discipline somebody.
That's right.
You don't just beat somebody to death. You give them a whipping, but you don't beat them to death. You don't bang them on the heads and knock them around.
Right. And he would grab us by the hair of the head and come.
I've seen daddies do that.
And come back with a whole handful of freaking hair. It's a wonder that I got any hair on my head.
Used to be an old guy that picked cotton, and he had 3 kids, and them kids didn't do what he told her. He wore a big belt around him, and he'd take that belt out in that cotton field and whip that kid right there in that cotton field.
Well, I've seen it many, many times. But you know, these kids are getting aware that if you shame them openly like that, they had one up there in Martin, Marvin Alexander. He was the auctioneer up there. Everybody and their brother knows him, probably 10 counties wide. He whipped his kid in front of 2 or 3 of his buddies, and it shamed him. And you know what his little boy done? He went out in the bar and grabbed up a rope. Hung himself. Well,
I've seen daddies grab kids by the hair of the head or jerk them by the arm, and take their foot and just kick them just as hard as they could,
Absolutely, because meanness is in children just like meanness is in adults. Meanness is in animals. You got some animals that are gentle and kind and graceful, and then you got some animals that if you get around them, they try to freaking kill you.
Yeah.
They try to eat you alive.
Yeah.
Same way with people. You got some people that you can trust and be around. They're gentle, they're polite, they're kind, and then you got some people, if you get around them just right, they're liable to wind up trying to kill you.
Do you know where Moses was when the lights went out?
There was no lights with Moses.
Well, yeah. You don't know where he was when the lights went out?
There was no electricity during the time of Moses.
Well, he's in the dark. He's just like you, be in the dark and the lights went out.
Well, that's what's wrong with us now. Jesus said that if the blind lead the blind, they both shall lead it off into the ditch. Don't you think we're in the ditch, Uncle Bill?
Probably so. Big old ditch.
Yeah, we're in a gully. We're in a trench.
Yeah.
We're in a gorge. We're in the Grand Canyon.
It's gonna get worse. That's the one thing.
But what can we do? I keep asking you this again and again and again, and I love you to death, Uncle Bill, but you're not giving me an answer. What can we do to stop it?
Die.
So basically, we got an uncontrollable society.
Right.
We got a society. We got a society that no longer lives under law and order. Well, you know what happens? You know what happens?
We're gonna die and go to hell.
You know what happens whenever a society turns their back to the point that there is no law and order? You know what happens with the big master upstairs? He puts an end to it.
God gets it up and he puts the finger on them.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't know how much longer he's going to put up with this mess down here on this earth.
I don't either, because I'm going to tell you something.
It's bad.
The temptations here is awful.
It's getting where you can't. This world is hard to live in now. It's getting bad, real bad.
They said they have something like 150 killings every 24 hours of gun violence here in America.
But you know,
150 people dying of gun violence, and that's just the ones that's dying of the gun violence. That ain't the ones that's dying in car accidents, and that ain't the ones that's dying of drug overdoses. That ain't the ones that's jumping off the bridges or slicing their freaking wrists. You hear me? That's just the ones of gun violence that's dying routinely, about 150 a day. What is that? Is that basically a whole busload?
I guess.
Can you put 150? You can't put 150 kids on a bus.
No.
It'd be 2 bus loads.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
I guess, 40, 50 kids is the most of carry on the bus?
Probably. So you're looking at 3 bus loads of kids.
Which buses are a lot longer than they used to be when I was a kid.
They are. But no, it's gotten ridiculous to the point that it's scary. I mean, you go out in the public and my God, you don't know if you're going to get robbed. You don't know if somebody's going to lunatic.
If you're going down the highway, somebody will just shoot you running down that road out there.
Just because somebody dared them. Why dare you?
Somebody on the overhead bridge will drop something off on you and you run in under you. They do that.
So the question was, whenever you was growing up as a youngster in your teenage years, and you seen how the old people done things, could you only imagine what that they would do today if that same bunch was living today?
Mm-hmm.
They would clean house, son.
Old Poach's not gonna come back, I don't guess.
They would clean house, and they wouldn't bat an eye about it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't bat an eye about it. And I guess that's what's going to have to happen. We're going to have to increase our laws. We're going to have to intensify the punishment on these lawbreakers, and we're really going to have to come down serious on them, because if not, Uncle Bill, they're going to take us over to the point that the good, decent, civilized people they're not even going to exist no more. In other words, if people get hungry enough, they could actually try to break in this house right here and try to take everything that they could from you. You know what I'm saying? Who has allowed for this to happen?
Yeah.
The baby boomers. You're not a baby boomer. You was born in 33. 1933.
1933. I got up and looked at the clock. You know what time it was.
But everybody that was considered baby boomers was after World War II, which was about what, 1945, 1946, something like that. Everybody beyond that up until about what, 1962, something like that, is considered the baby boomers. That's whenever all the families was coming home and they was rebuilding their lives, the soldier boy, and they was having families, and some of them would have 2, 3, 4 kids. You know, that was the baby boomer era. Well, the baby boom era are the ones that has let this get out of hand, Uncle Bill. They've let it get out of hand.
Well, things is going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Well, that ain't a solution.
It's on a bad track.
That's not a solution to the problem. We're going to have to bond together. We're going to have to reinvent our training. We're going to have to go in and remodify a lot of these loans. We're going to have to train these kids how to change their own flat. We're going to have to train these kids how to do actual work, not just the Mexicans, but we're going to have to change a lot of things like our highway system. That don't need to be black. The blacktop is what's absorbing all the heat. All these houses that's got black tar roofs and dark roofs on them, they need to outlaw all of them to where everybody could only have a brown roof or a light color roof. They need to do away with the black because black absorbs heat. Throwing bottles, a little bottle that water comes in, a plastic bottle. They need to make it a law that if you get caught throwing a bottle in water, it should be a $5,000 fine. You hear me? A $5,000 fine. You know why? Because a little bit of that water that's left in that bottle, a little bit of that water turns into a magnifying glass. And that magnifying glass, whenever that sun hits it, helps to heat up the water even more so. It heats the water up. You remember back years, you probably don't remember this, they had those clackers, those 2 balls with a string on them where you clack them, they clack them this way, clack them that way, clack, clack, clack. If you was good at it, man, you could make a lot of freaking noise with them. Well, they got to the point that kids was taking them after they got through using them and throwing them out there in the yard and walking away. Well, you know what was happening? The sun was hitting those clackers, which was basically a round marble, and it would bounce the sun of hitting the clacker over here, but whenever it would shine over here, it was like a laser, and it would intensify the heat, and it was causing fields and people's homes to catch on fire, so they had to outlaw the clackers. Well, that's what water does in a plastic container. It's like a clacker. It's like a magnifying glass. It intensifies the heat. Uncle Bill, there's no doubt we've made some mistakes in the past 30 plus years, and you know we have. Because we didn't pay a close enough attention. And whenever Al Gore started talking about all this stuff, about environmental changes, your generation, admit it, your generation did not believe Al Gore pertaining to environmental changes. And now look at where we're at. We're going to have to make some changes. And it's going to have to be pretty sudden. If not, we're not going to survive. As in other words, this planet could actually become uninhabitable. Did you see what happened up there in Yellowstone National Park? Do you know why that happened? It wasn't just because of the rains. It was because of the heat dome. You know, all of a sudden, we jumped from, 78 to 82 to freaking 98, 99, and this heat dome went up towards Minnesota, and you got all those snow caps up there that has all that snow on it, and that snow began to melt just like that, and it come down on top of all that rain, and that's what caused the rivers to freaking swell. Was the melting of the snow. Well, we're going to have more of this happen. And if we don't prepare ourselves for this stuff, we're going to get caught with our pants down. Because I'm telling you, the world is changing. And I think a lot of it's got to do with the sorrows, because it talks about the sorrows in the Bible. Jesus said that you will see signs in the heaven and signs up on the earth such as man has never seen before. Well, we're seeing things right now, Uncle Bill, that we ain't never even believed that would happen, but it's happening. And it ain't just happening in America, it's happening worldwide. So who has failed who? Who has failed who? You know, whenever you're talking about somebody that just recently sold an 18-year-old Army-style machine gun, who failed who? Was it the guy that was doing the killing with the machine gun, or was it the guy that sold the freaking machine gun to the 18-year-old?
Well, like I said, people does the killing. The gun don't do the killing. People does killing.
But it sure,
somebody's got to pull the trigger.
But it sure does make it awful convenient whenever they got a military-style gun to do that with.
These days and time, a person can make a gun.
Sure they can.
You can order stuff on a computer now and make a gun.
Well, besides that, they claim it. You probably got enough chemicals under your sink right now that you can make some sort of a small bomb with some of the chemicals that you got up underneath your counter right now.
The computer is one. The TV started out ruining the world. Computers winding it up.
I picture the computer as the Trojan horse. Have you ever seen that about Troy, about the Trojan horse? Right. They was given this gift of this beautiful, beautiful horse, and whenever they brought it into their dwelling, it was full of men inside, and when everybody went to sleep,
had some mean old people in it.
Yeah, that's right. So the thing that they thought was beautiful turned out to have been one of the ugliest things that they'd ever brought into their lives. And that's the same way with all these telephones and all these computers. There's no doubt, Uncle Bill, I wish that I didn't have a telephone. But I know that I'm not going to be able to touch my base out there if I don't use the same type of tools or materials or whatever you want to use, whatever terminology that you want to use. If I don't use that same type of tactics towards getting my material out there to them, towards helping to save somebody through Christ, not because of me, but through Christ, I'm never going to be able to reach them.
Where is all them people going that's coming into this country down on the southern border?
I'll tell you where they're going. They live in hostile environments, and they're coming to America because America is their refuge. Now, once more, whose fault is it? Is it the people that's wanting to get out of that environment because of rapes and the murders and all the drug lords and all the thugs and all the evil people that's in charge? Or is it the people that's in charge? That's it. It's the government.
We got no place to put them here. They're coming in here and nowhere to go.
Oh, I know. It's just overloading our grid system. It's overloading our highways. I mean, it's overloading everything.
And the criminals and everything's coming in.
Sure they are.
All kind of people.
And they have
we don't know what we got getting in here.
They have no idea. They have no idea. Because over there, they probably don't even have a Social Security card. Much less keep up with people's criminal activities. They don't document people over there like they do over here. But I think over here, they document people too much, because if you have a criminal record, and let's say you do straighten up, let's say you're in jail, let's say you get your heart and your life right, you become sincere with the Lord gives you the ability to get over whatever that you was going through, and you get let out, and you paid your debt to society, and now you want to start your life all over again. Well, guess what? You can't do that now. Why not? Because of the computer. You can't outrun the computer. But yet now they'll tell you, well, you're in America, you're not supposed to be punished twice for the same crime. It's called double jeopardy. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Whenever these people that does get out, that does want to reform and start their life over again and become a productive citizen to society, they can't, because it won't nobody hire them, Uncle Bill, because they have a criminal file. Well, is that not punishing that person twice? Sure it is. That's double jeopardy. You can't outrun the computer. So what does America need to do? We need to reconstruct our laws. We need to make our laws different, just like buying the machine guns. We need to reconstruct our laws. We need to make it a law that you can't hold somebody accountable after they've already went through their dues. Now, there's certain crimes out there that I agree you need to know about. In other words, if you've been arrested for sexual pedophile, I don't want you around my children. I don't want you around my grandchildren, do you? Especially if you still got that problem. So in one way, it's good that we know about these criminals, but in another way, it just adds that much more to the problem, because you got people out there that does want to work, but can't. But then again, you got people out there begging for work, but they won't work. It's a mess. It is a mess. How can we fix it, Uncle Bill? Without just up and dying. Without taking our head and sticking it in the sand like an ostrich. How are we going to conform the world?
God's got to do it.
That's right. There you go. Now you nailed it. It's going to have to take a super intervention. It's going to have to take a revival that will lead into a revolution. That's the only way that we're going to escape this damnation, this condemnation that has fallen up into the great deal of our laps now in some form or another. Kind of like the Walmart slogan, coming near a neighborhood near you. You hear me? Coming near a neighborhood near you. We're going to have to get together and bring this stuff to the head and try to do something about it. If not, it's just gonna fester. Just like a sore. You know, you take a sore and you peel the scab off of it. What happens? It festers up again. And if you peel that scab off, it festers up again. Kind of like kicking the can down the road. You kick the can down the road, you put a Band-Aid on it, kick the can down the road. Well, kicking the can and putting a Band-Aid on stuff ain't gonna fix it. It's going to take God.
Well, these days they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
You got it. You nailed it. You nailed it on the head. I'm glad Mama Lucy and my mother and other loved ones that I've known in the past, I'm glad they're not alive right now towards seeing all this, because if they was, Uncle Bill, I don't think they'd be able to stand it, do you? I don't think they'd be able to take it. I just don't think that they'd be able to accept what's going on in the world right now. It would throw them off into a state of depression, kind of like Carrie Lee. Carrie Lee has been thrown off into a state of depression because Carrie Lee cannot accept how evil and demonic and how wicked that society has become. And you know what? There's a million more Carrie Lees out there just like Carrie Lee, that it's driving these people off into a secluded state of mind of depression. And the next thing you know, they'll get to thinking that their life ain't worth living. And the next thing you know, those same type of people will end up trying to jump off a bridge or put a gun to their mouth or slice their own wrist. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Our politicians has failed us. Our preachers has failed us. We have failed ourselves. Heaven help us all is all I got to say, Uncle Bill. Heaven help us all. Did you know that since that war broke out over there in Russia, fertilizer has increased 3 times more than what it was? Did you know that Ukraine supplied over 1/3 of the world with all their wheat? You go to messing with different components like that, and you're gonna take things out of order. You know, whenever you take 10 million people and put 3 million in Poland, and another 2 million over here, and another 1.5 million over here, and another 500,000 over here, you displace 10 million people. And the trickling effect comes down, and that's what we're starting to feel right now. And believe it or not, I don't think we've even come close of topping out. Do you? I don't think. In other words, this could actually get like the Wild Wild West show back in the Wild Wild West, where the fastest man will be the man left standing.
Well, me and you ain't gonna solve it. Did you know it?
We can try.
Where did we start?
We started whenever I was talking about a hoax. People's been lied to too much. People's been hurt too much. People's been taken advantage of too much. They don't know who to trust. They don't know what to trust. They don't know what to believe. They don't believe nothing. They're going the safe route. What just don't believe nobody. Don't believe nobody. Don't believe nothing. You know, it used to be, I think you was the one that told me this. It used to be that you didn't believe nothing that you heard?
You would believe nothing you hear and half what you see. Now you believe nothing you see or hear.
That's the safe way out. That way you don't get used. You don't get taken. You don't get burnt.
That was the old saying back a long time ago. Is believe nothing you hear and half what you see.
Exactly. You know, it's got to the point you can't even go to a retail store no more without being approached with a gimmick.
The news on television, they don't tell
They're biased. They're biased. They're going to tell their side of it. But whenever you go to a store, okay, let's say you're going to get a thing of deodorant. And you only want one deodorant because you live in a very tight, confined area. And you don't really have a whole lot of space for two deodorants. You only want one deodorant. But yet now, you got one deodorant that's this price. But if you'll buy two deodorants, it'll knock 50 cents off the one deodorant. That way now, instead of you having to house one deodorant, now you got to house two. You know what that's called? That's called a gimmick. That's a gimmick, Uncle Bill. That's the same thing as going to a carnival somewhere. And if you'll pay $5 for 3 balls or $10 for 5, you may plunge the little lady in the water or whatever and get to take the bear home. That's a gimmick. That's what our nation has become with religion, with politics, with our retailers selling stuff. It's turned into a gimmick, and people has gotten enough of it. They don't want to be had no more. They refuse to be had. They do not want to be entrapped the same as others was entrapped by giving millions of dollars to PTL or to Jimmy Swaggart's ministry, and come to find out them people was dirtier than what the ones that was giving them the money on. It was a gimmick. It was a gimmick.
Yeah.
And back in the day, whenever you was growing up, if somebody had a gimmick, our law stopped them. Today, you liable to get 1,000 telephone calls. 1,000 telephone calls. Pranksters. Somebody wanting something for nothing. If they can steal your identity, the next thing you know, they can come in and ain't no telling do what to you. And you know good and well they ain't going to be out to help you. They're going to be out to hurt you. I used to believe, whenever I was a child growing up, I was naive. I used to believe in giving people a chance. And whenever I approached a relationship or an acquaintance, I would believe the best out of that human being until they proved otherwise. In other words, as long as you didn't try to beat me up or harm me physically or rob me, I would want to believe that you're a decent human being. Today, as many times as I've been burnt and hurt and used and abused and violated, it's almost like now, 90% of the time, nine people out of 10, whenever I approach them, I'm thinking to myself, well, what do you want out of me? What are you trying to beat me out of? What are you trying to hurt me with? What are you trying to scam me about?
You about put me to sleep.
Well, you're looking good for your age. How old are you again?
89 years old.
Do you believe that?
Do what?
Do you believe that you are 89 years old?
I believe it.
Well, you're looking good for your age.
I've been there and I've done it, and I've been there twice and done it again.
Well, have you had supper?
Huh?
Have you had supper?
I've had supper.
You have had supper. Well, it's
I
getting
had
dark.
an old dog I was going to feed out here, and it left.
Oh, you've been trying to
What?
gain attention on a stray?
Yeah. That's just an old dog that lives over there next door there. Comes over here and stays a while. He stayed 2 days over here. I began thinking he wasn't going to go back home.
Sometimes they don't go home.
But
As long as you keep feeding them, as long as you keep taking care of them, they won't go home. And people would do the same thing, Uncle Bill.
I want to feed him.
Uncle Bill's people would do the same thing. If somebody comes up here and they're a hobo or a bum, and you take care of them, the next thing you know, they'll want to latch on to you. And as long as you keep feeding them and
I
keep
was going to feed him, but he hadn't eaten in 2 days. He stayed all day yesterday with me, all night last night. And I was going to feed it, but it left before I fed it, and so I'm glad it did, because if I fed it, it'd want to stay for sure.
Well, on a situation
But
like
it's so hot weather,
I know.
I'm laying out here, the old dog gonna die.
Right,
I didn't want him dying on my front porch.
I understand. But in a situation like that, what you do is you take your bowl of food and
He
you
got
take
dog
it.
hair all over
you-
my green thing out there.
You take it. You take your food. You put it across the road over there. You don't have to be in somebody's driveway. Just next to the edge of the road somewhere. Walk down the road a little bit and get the dog, and feed the dog. And if it needs some water, give it some water and take care of it that way. That way you're not actually feeding the dog here on your property.
I give it water, because it went whole day without water, and I know it had to have water. I put a pan of water out there. I went over and looked at Jay Ray's yard. The old dog followed me over there. I come back down the building, sat there. Old dog laid down by my feet. I went out to the mailbox. The old dog went to the mailbox. He laid down the mailbox out there and scratched a while. And I shut my front door, and I said, well, maybe it'll go home. I got up, I went to the bathroom, looked out the window. Here's the old dog come up on the porch.
Well, he must have liked you.
So I fixed up something deep for him. I was going to put it out there. I opened the door and checked it, and he wasn't there. He went home. So I'm glad he went home.
I see, señores.
I didn't want the old dog dying on my front porch.
Somebody's coming up here in a Corvette. Who is that? In a Corvette.
I don't know this right now who that is, but
They're in a red Corvette.
it may be Johnny Russian.
It's a young boy, whoever it is.
That's Johnny Russian.
Who's Johnny Russian?
He's just a friend. Come on in, man.
What you
Come
doing,
on in
young
here.
man?
Hey,
Oh, we're having a party in here.
yeah, have a seat.
We got a crap game going, man. 2 for 1. You want to get in on it?
What your
We doing
iPad
snake
is
eyes.
that?
We doing snake eyes for triples.
Flat broke. You don't
Really?
want me in your
I've
game.
got that
Oh,
thing back
man.
here not too long. Where you been?
Well, they don't let me off the office very long.
You still working?
Yeah, I ain't.
Have you got lots of work?
Mr. Bill, I ain't never seen nothing like it.
You got a lot of work.
Yes, sir.
There's people paying you.
John Rush.
My name is Dennis Jackson.
Oh, that's
Dennis?
Dennis the Menace.
Dennis.
I'm a menace to society, and I want to continue to be that the rest of my life. This is my uncle right here. He's taught me everything I know.
He's rotten.
He's taught me everything I know. No, Uncle Bill, that's my mother's brother, and that's the last one of them. That he's the last of the Mohegans on that close to my family.
Right.
So I still come up and see him 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh,
I aggravate
what
him.
your vet is that out there?
76.
76.
Mm-hmm.
Bicentennial
You still
year.
got Jason's truck?
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Oh yeah.
You still got it?
Sitting over to the farm.
Have you done anything to it?
Well, I had it painted.
Yeah, I knew you done that, but you said it was getting some rust or something in it. Have you done?
It's cracking. It just disheartens me. You know, I told the old boy I would never get rid of it, and he just didn't do me justice. So it's every time I walk out there to take it for a ride to church or do something, 'cause I don't drive it much. It just
Do you drive it much?
no. You want to drive it? You
Huh?
want to drive it?
No. I just.
How well did you know Jason?
Oh, he was rotten too. Just about.
But you didn't answer me. How long have you known him? Several years, 10 years, 20 years? Something like
10.
that? Yeah.
10 years. Me and him and Ziggy and riding motorcycles, but then they was right smart older than me.
Right.
And they were sort of cleaning up their act about the time I needed to be getting into my act. And
How old would Jason be right now?
Huh?
How old would Jason be? Probably about 45, 47?
46 when he died.
46 when he died?
50.
51.
No.
Have you got a lot of people working for you?
5 Mexican boys and 2 girls.
How many now?
5 Mexican boys
5 Mexican boys.
and 2 girls.
Mexican girls.
Are you in the construction industry? Is that what you do?
He's stone worker.
Granite fabrication,
Okay.
stone fabrication for countertops and showers and
Sure,
outdoor cooking areas.
sure.
But
That's art.
it's an art, yes sir, and it's tough to find help.
Tough to find talented help
Yeah.
and reliable help.
It's been tough.
And you're probably paying them what?
Shit, my main guy gets over $2,000 a week cash. Yeah.
Really?
So they ain't no slouches.
No.
But I don't guess you've been fishing.
I ain't been fishing now. I'm going on 2 years. Can't see the fish no more.
You just ain't seeing none at all.
I'm seeing, but it ain't right.
Still putting them drops in every day. I told you you're gonna have to smoke some marijuana and make your eyes better.
It's supposed to be good for glaucoma. It really is. Glaucoma.
Is that what it's the pressure?
You see, I had this tumor in the side right here, and it ain't got, the muscles has not got back to working right in. This is probably as good as it's ever going to get right now.
Yeah.
My brother had the
I
same
can
problem.
see out of it. I'm see straight, but when I look to the left and right, I see double.
I remember you said that.
Yep, my brother had the same problem.
So you still going down there to the church?
Huh?
You still going down there to the church?
I don't go to church. I don't drive much. Very